Welcome to Fans First, a sports podcast where your voice matters most. Hosted by Hall of Fame sportscaster Jim Powell. This is the show that puts fans at the heart of the conversation. Whether you're cheering in the stands, screaming at the TV, or debating with friends about the latest trades, Fans First is here to amplify your thoughts, your insights, and your love for the game.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Fans First, a sports podcast. My name is Jim Powell, and I brought along with me a very special guest. His name is Tyler Flowers. He is a local boy making good here in Atlanta, a guy that is from Roswell and got to play for his hometown Atlanta Braves for a large part of his 12-year career. And Tyler, it's great to have you with us here. We're so grateful to see you, and we are looking forward to picking your brain as we get closer to the baseball postseason.
Yes, glad to be here. Excited to jump into something like this. And, of course, excited for the Braves. We're starting to get rolling a little bit.
That was going to be my first question, is obviously this season for the Braves has been unlike any we'd seen in recent years. It seems like Alex Anthopoulos can always find a button to push somewhere to get the team right back on track. And this year it's been more of a struggle with all the injuries that have been catastrophic in many ways. What's your assessment of the Braves season to this point and how they are looking in terms of getting ready for the postseason run?
Well, I think you hit it on the head. Injuries have been our challenge. And even some of the guys that we brought in to help fill in some of those voids for us are also becoming injured as well. So it's been an interesting, challenging season, I would say, for the entire organization, from losing some of our best starting pitchers, some of the best in the league, to some of our best hitters and infielders, bringing in some other guys and still dealing with some injuries. And we're actually still really fortunate to have Urshela and Merrifield filling in. I mean, guys that are all-stars in the past, and somehow they were available at the right time to still give us a chance to stay in this battle.
And the Braves are still right there. I mean, for all the troubles, they've managed to keep their heads above water and keep themselves into this race. Obviously, there's a lot of competition. There's some ground to be made up. But every team in baseball is saying the same thing, that anybody that's got a winning record is trying to figure out how to get into that postseason dance. And the Braves are just like a lot of teams trying to fight their way through and see if they can get a chip in a chair in the postseason.
Yeah, I mean, that's such a big part of this. We've seen it in years past where you just got to get your foot in the door. Just get in the dance. You can get a couple starters hot. You get a couple relievers hot, and you get a few batters hot. You win some 3-2 ball games, and you keep moving on series to series. You never know what happens. Once you get in the door, anything can happen. You just got to find a way to get in there, and we're working on getting there.
How cool is it for you to be doing all this? You're still working. You're employed by the Atlanta Braves still, even though you're a retired ex-catcher with all kinds of great skills and stories and insights that we're looking forward to picking from your brain for quite some time. But to get to do all this in Atlanta, I mean, with a stay in Chicago as well, but did you ever pinch yourself at some point, say, how did it work out so well for me?
I do. It's still a great situation. I got 5 kids at home, and I coach their team, so they've allowed me to have this role. And it allows a lot of versatility for me. I can do a lot of my work remotely. I can still go down to the stadium whenever I'd like to or whenever they really need me there. But yeah, growing up, I was originally with the Braves, and then I got traded to the White Sox. So that childhood dream was snatched away, and I never thought it would come back. And then when I became a free agent in 2016, the first team that called was the hometown team. And you almost kind of write them off at a point. It's like, well, they didn't want me. They traded me. And then all of a sudden you're back there for the last 5 years, cutting your own grass, going down to the ballpark, hanging out with your kids after the game. So it was a dream come true for sure.
How much did the art of pitch framing extend your career or make your career more enjoyable? Certainly, you became right away a master of the pitch framing, stole a lot of strikes. I mean, you've got a great catcher's ERA from your major league career as well. But pitch framing became kind of your bread and butter and what you were very well known for.
Well, you had to be good at something, right? It wasn't blocking, it wasn't throwing out runners, and it typically wasn't hitting. So I had to find something to put a little stamp onto. But I've said this numerous times before. I think if I played 10 years earlier, I don't know if I would have played half as long as I did. And, with the way the future's going, if I would have played 10 years later, I don't know if I would make it half as long as I did. So I think I was kind of at the right point in time, kind of helped reshape how catchers can be valued in a different way outside the traditional back of the baseball card. And that really worked out great for me because I put a lot of time and effort and understanding into it, and ended up, what helped me hang on for a number of years.
Do you have other catchers still come by and say, "Hey, can you show me a thing or two?"
I do, yeah, from time to time. More so the youth level now, like at the parks here with my boys and some of the older kids come over and pick your brain. And unfortunately, it's like, hey, I got to go coach this team. So like, if you hang out till after practice, I'll talk to you some more. But I love talking about catching way more than I like talking about throwing or even hitting, because I know what I was doing as far as receiving pitches and having a plan with it in the box and throwing down to second. I just kind of winged it most of the time.
Is it fair to say that it was kind of your back issues that sort of edged you into retirement? And how is your back now?
100%. It was my back. It was my back my last couple years playing. Some days you wake up the wrong way and you can hardly walk. When I was playing, though, we had the luxury of some great doctors on hand that could, patch you up before the game if you had to play, or they give you something to get you set up to play, in a couple days from then. But that was 100% the reason why I had to retire. At a point, it just wasn't worth it. Again, with my kids and everything at home, I want to be able to play catch and run around. And it was getting to the point where if I kept going, it was going to be a semi-major surgery that, you're never guaranteed, especially when you're dealing with your spine and back.
Right.
Nowadays, it's pretty good. I could still golf a lot. That's kind of one of my new passions. Really don't have any issues golfing with it. It's more being in that catcher's position, hunched over, and the rotation involved being in that position that was causing all the disc issues for me.
It's funny that most people think of catchers as you get stuck behind the plate when you're in little league because you're the worst player on the team, or you can't run, or you can't do this and you can't do that. But actually, when you get to the major league level, and I was fortunate to get to watch a lot of great catchers over the years, you realize that the catchers, in many cases, they may not be the fastest player, but they're among the most athletic on the entire team. You have so many different skills that you must bring to the table in order to perform that job.
Yeah, and strangely enough, I was a shortstop my entire life, a pitcher. And then my last couple years in high school, my best friend transferred over, so I became a third baseman because he was better than I was. But yeah, I never caught my whole life, and just being a bigger guy, it's like, okay, can you hit? Okay, what position can you play, and how well do you hit? What goes with it? I wasn't Freddie Freeman at first base, so I was like, I need to find something else. So then catching, just kind of fell in love with it. I kind of enjoyed being in the action at all times, being in charge of the whole field. You're the second manager out there, basically. I can relay a message much quicker than Snit can do it or anyone else from the bench. And, the onus is put on you to pay attention and know where everyone should be on basically any and every play. And that's something I've always really enjoyed. And I think that's what really made me gravitate towards catching.
And now you have a different job, obviously, but it's one where it's not completely dissimilar from catching, where you're assimilating a lot of facts and a lot of information and turning it into things that can be a real positive for the Atlanta Braves in the case of your team right here in Atlanta.
Yeah, so I still help out with the team, special assistants, like player ops department. Basically, that comes down to what I did my last couple years, where I was mainly more of just a straight backup catcher. But going through the scouting report, dissecting the opposing team's lineup, bearing in account who's our starting pitcher today. Is it a changeup guy, breaking ball guy, fastball, two seam, four seam? Breaking down what are the areas to attack on this team we're playing for this series, and also thinking about relief pitchers. What areas do some of our relief pitchers match up well? Because nowadays you got to go three batter minimum, so you need to find some of the best spots to use a AJ Minter, or maybe Iglesias doesn't close if we're in a different spot. Someone else matches up better at that point in the lineup. So that's still something I continue to help with throughout the last few seasons. We just roll through it first day of the series, kind of go through everybody, and we all kind of come to a consensus, and that's the game plan, and hopefully we execute.
Well, that's a great job. I'm sure a lot of kids and college people and grown men and women were thinking, man, I want that job. Send me some data and I'll break these guys. I'll tell you how to strike out every single New York Met. I hate the Mets. But yeah, it sounds like a perfect fit for a retired ex-catcher. So congratulations on being able to help the team that way. it also, from our standpoint, as we try and get your insights, we're thinking about, we're almost to September. We're going to soon be right in the heart of the down the stretch. Who's going to be in, who's going to be out when it comes to postseason when that field is finally set. Um, it's a really exciting time. Thinking about the National League first, obviously the Phillies have had a great year here. The Brewers have been playing well, and the Braves are trying to chase down some teams. Um, what are your thoughts on the leading teams in the National League? And have obviously the Braves have had a bunch of injuries and setbacks in that regard. Other teams have their own attrition also. Everybody suffers from it. Who do you feel like is at this point still a ways away from October, in a good position to make a deep run in the postseason?
I mean, I feel you got to like the Phillies. I hate to say that, but you got to. I mean, that their offense is getting hot again. Their lineup, it's a very good lineup. On paper, you look at it like there's no holes, there's no breaks in that lineup. Then you take into account their starters. I mean, they got three of the best in the game right now, all on one staff. Then you go to their bullpen. They got three animals down there that are pretty much locked down. So especially when you're talking about a series with days off in between where you don't have to go to a fourth starter necessarily, they got three horses. You can use the same relievers night in, night out. You're getting a day off, then they're back ready at it again. So kind of the same thing. We talk about just getting your foot in the door in the playoffs. That's a team you got to be fearful of if they get in their foot in the door, which it looks like they will. That's going to be a tough one to beat, especially if they keep a few hitters hot and two of their starters throw the ball well. That's going to be a tough series.
Yeah, it looks like the Phillies have both feet in the door right now and are feeling pretty good about things. That's an outstanding, well balanced team, as you've just pointed out. Who else in the National League do you think could surprise?
Well, I don't want to say surprise. It's almost more expected, but the Dodgers, and they're getting healthy again. Even the guys they end up having fill in for the guys that are injured look like all stars when they're on that team. It's amazing what they've been able to keep in their farm system and have on standby when a Mookie Betts goes down, and they're bringing in what's going to be an all-star. 3 years from now, that same player is going to be an all-star, and they just have them sitting around in AAA just ready to go. Like their depth is unbelievable. Not to mention the names on their team. That's an all-star team batting order, which is just crazy that they can afford all those great players. But and again, they're getting their starting pitching is coming back too. They had a couple guys that have really stepped up throughout this year, like Stone. That guy looks tremendous, and some of their horses are back at it and healthy. So maybe not a surprise, but I think they're starting to actually live up to expectation. They've fought off with the D-backs up till now, and they haven't even really gotten hot yet. So I think they're about to walk away with that division here in the next couple of weeks.
You don't see the American League as much when you're, getting your data and breaking it down, building strategy for the Braves because you just don't play the American League quite as much. But who in the American League do you feel like is well positioned to make a deep run?
I'm excited to see the Yankees and Orioles. I think both of them are on different ends of it. I think the Yankees are maybe counting down the years of their dominance, and I think the Orioles obviously are just starting to get into their years of dominance with their youth. But again, both of those teams, there's so much depth, and a lot of the names, maybe we're not familiar with them on TV every day, but if you watch them play, they're big name and they're all-star players, and they're solid up and down. The other teams that really stands out to me are the Guardians have held their own throughout the entire season. A couple lapses here and there, a couple hot streaks here and there, but other than that, they've just been super consistent. That's probably Stephen Vogt and all his jokes and everything in the clubhouse, just keeping them loose and having fun. Outside of that, I'm kind of rooting for the Royals a little bit. My buddy Salvi's still doing it at however old he is now, still squatting somehow. I don't know how he does that either. And then some of the youth on their team, like Bobby Witt, like what a special player. The big first baseman, Pasquatch, that guy's fun to watch hit. He seems to be a real good presence on that team. Another young leader, probably following after Salvi. Bobby Witt's doing the same thing. I'd like to see them continue to make the little run that they're on and make it a little a tough division for them there. The Twins are still in the mix there. They just can't seem to really get going offensively consistently, and I think that's what's ultimately going to hurt them.
Well, I'm gonna turn things around a little bit because you just seem a little too comfortable over there just talking baseball. So I want to get you into some another subject or two here before we
Don't
let
give
you
me
go.
math questions, please.
Okay, no math, no math. This is a segment we call Flip the Switch, where we turn things in a different direction with our guest. And with Tyler Flowers, I want to ask you a little bit of a off the beaten path type thing, because I've seen you play tennis. You were very careful to talk about golf and baseball and catching and strategy. You didn't talk about your tennis game, and I've seen you out there, and people are deathly afraid to play against Tyler Flowers. You're usually out there with your wife, who's a very nice lady. So, because you guys play a lot of mixed doubles together, right?
Yeah.
Tell us about tennis and what kind of role that has in your family.
Well, it had a secret role to begin with. I started playing in 2016. You're not actually supposed to do that when you're under contract. Kind of like playing pickup basketball. You're not supposed to do that. But
skiing.
You sneak it in, It really started for me. My wife wanted to play, and she said, "Hey, do you want to come play?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I can hit a ball with a racket, sure." And I hate doing cardio anyway, so this is like free cardio. You don't realize you're running a mile. You're just trying to run down a ball and hit it back and get back in position. So that's how it started for me. And then little did I know it would become like another little passion. That competitive nature of an athlete comes out. So I'm out there practicing my serves on my own at the tennis courts and just trying to get better. Again, just being, when I started, still younger for a tennis player, a younger athlete, former professional athlete. Like, I don't want to go out there and stink. So I'd had to put in a little bit of work to get a lot better. But it's a big part of our lives. Majority of my friends nowadays that are around me, outside of ex-teammates that live around me, they're all from like the tennis courts. And now getting into golf the last couple of years, I've gotten some more friends from the golf course, but the bulk of my friendships around my house right now, the guys I hang out with, are from the tennis courts, and the same thing for my wife.
Can you confess to having a sport that you tried at some point and you just sucked?
Basketball, I played growing up for like 5 years. I wasn't very good. I could rebound, not because of my hops, but because of my big butt and my body and footwork. I could box out with the best of them. But if I held that ball longer than about 3 seconds, my coach would start screaming at me, "Give it up. You get the ball and you give it up right away." So I think the most points I ever scored in a game was like 4 points, but like 12 rebounds. So like I was Caucasian Dennis Rodman.
Well, you found your niche in many other sports besides basketball, so it certainly didn't hold you back. Tyler, definitely looking forward to talking to you again when the postseason field is set, and we can really go team by team through it and really see who's got the pathway and who doesn't, who's going to have more trouble because of their adversity and injuries and all of that, and who seems like they're just coasting in and have a great chance to go all the way. So thank you so much for your insights, for telling us about your job with the Braves, which is very interesting, I know, to a lot of people, including me. Really enjoyed the visit. We look forward to having you back on again very soon.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, now we're to the part of the program that has become quickly my favorite, because I'm just old enough to be a little cranky.
Hey, get off my lawn.
We are inviting fans like yourself who can send us a submission. You can send us a video. You can send us an audio track from your phone. You can write us a note. Send it to Jim at fansfirstpodcast.com. The best submissions will make our show. And there's always that possibility that you'll actually be a star on our show. You never know. So that's what we're doing here. And right now we have a submission from Omaha, Nebraska. Will Frampton has put in his 2 cents on our sort of piggybacking on our discussion with Tony Barnhart from last week, where we talked a lot about college football, and Will has some strong opinions.
I swear, now with college football, it feels like all we hear about in the offseason is NIL deals. How much is this quarterback getting paid to go here or there? Are they going to transfer out because they're not getting paid enough by the school they're at right now? When does the portal open? When does it close? How many portal periods are there? Will the coach have to re-recruit the players they have right now to stay on the team next year? It is killing college football, and I cannot watch anymore. If this is going to be what college football is, I'm done. See ya.
Well, I can certainly understand your opinion. I feel your pain. A lot of us do, but there's nothing we can do about it, unfortunately. The game is still great. The players don't talk about money when they're under center and about to hand the football off, or throwing a long pass for a touchdown, or intercepting a ball. You know, it's in the end, once the game starts, they're just kids playing a man's game, as college football has become. But so I appreciate your opinion, but unfortunately, it seems like it's a little over the top, a little drama here that maybe has taken your opinion back a step or two. But I really appreciate that you offered a submission to Fans First, and we're glad to have you.
Well, it was great to have you here. We are so glad you came by to check out our Fans First, a sports podcast this week. And we'll have more excellent content with outstanding guests coming up very, very soon, including a return to Fans First with Tyler Flowers down the road. As you heard, when we get the postseason field all nailed down, he'll be here to break it all down for you, as only a catcher with a lot of major league experience can do. So for our entire team and for Tyler Flowers, this is Jim Powell. We'll see you next time on Fans First, a sports podcast.
Stay tuned, stay passionate, and keep celebrating the sport you love. Visit us at fansfirstpodcast.com to explore more. Sign up for our newsletter to receive exclusive updates, and follow the podcast on social media to join our growing community of sports enthusiasts. Your voice matters to us, so don't hesitate to share your thoughts and connect with fellow fans. See you next time